Hello and welcome. Today we are going to go ahead and do another ship design series. This one is going to be for the Condor. Now, this particular ship has been inspired by the Condor from EVE Online, which is a simple little missile frigate. It's one of the first things that you can fly in EVE if you start out as Condor, and then it has some later iterations as an interceptor. Um, and while it wasn't, one of the primary ships that I flew when I played, it was still a nice distinctive design that when I was searching for some inspiration, I came across this and I'm like, I think I can do this in Space Engineers. Um, Speaking of which, if you are ever looking for inspiration for ship builds, you know, search anything on media for like spaceship or space game or whatever, whether it's something like Eve, it's other Space Engineers players, it is something like oh god, what is that overly expensive game that's been in development for the past decade? Can't remember. But just search for things and then try and use that as inspiration for your builds. The more ridiculous, the better. Alright, so when I was building this ship, the very first thing that I settled on was I needed the shape. I did attempt to go ahead and try and build this in small grid and gave up. But when I came back with large grid, I was still able to get a general sense of the shape, and still able to make it look something like what I would want um, with that large grid form factor. So as we come on over here, we will see that I started with the nose of the Condor, which is kind of like, almost looks kind of like a bird head. And then, of course, from there it tapers down, and then starts kind of forming the shoulders of the bird. And then from there, the next thing that's kind of noticeable about the Condor is that it goes up into a little hump on the back. And then, of course, naturally, the wings that come down the side. Um, from here, the kind of trickiest part is what the heck is actually going on in this little section here. Because, as you can see, it's a bit of a mess. And then, of course, we come around here. Let me turn my lights on. I obviously have not completed the back or the bottom. So then over here, I start filling that in. And then this is basically the final-ish shape. So you can see I have a reasonably large interior space. Not like huge or anything, but reasonable enough. And it more or less gets the shape that I want with some nonsense going on kind of in this little gap area. However, I decided I wouldn't concern myself too much with that because this is an almost perfect area to stick, non-armory bits. Now, from there all the way to here, I was just working in pure light armor. There was no reason to go ahead and fiddle with anything else. But you can go ahead and just kind of get the general shape, and then from there you can go ahead and start changing up what you're working with. Now, in Eve, there isn't really cockpits per se. You never actually see the inside of a ship. The art for it looks kind of like there's a cockpit up front, and I was debating about trying to do something like that, but then I had the thought of, this side is actually going to be probably closest to the enemy, so let's just slap some decoys in there, under armor, and call it a day. It's going to go ahead and give us, you know, something that they are going to shoot at first before they shoot at the rest of the ship. Then it's time to go ahead and start slapping on components. One of the things I did here as well is I looked back at the art and realized that there's a little fin type thing that was going on down here, so I slapped that on. And then I started slapping on thrusters and, you know, guns. So here you can see, went ahead and put a gatling turret on each side. That did go ahead and cut off some of this space right here, because, you know, you need to have 3 blocks around the turret that don't have anything on them. Naturally, of course, I went ahead and I put a cargo container underneath the turret, because that just is a good way to store ammo for it, even if something comes and breaks your conveyors. And then all around it, I also went ahead and layered heavy armor in. Up here, again, same thing, there's a cargo container under the turret and heavy armor around it. Note here that one of the things that I decided after kind of looking at this some was I think that this would make a pretty reasonable hydrogen-powered ship, and one that you could go ahead and build for kind of base defense or as like an escort without perhaps having all of the space-based resources. So I designed this to go ahead and be more of an early game ship, which also, of course, fits in well with its EVE Online predecessor, because the Condor is one of the very first ships that you can fly in the game. So with that, the Gatling turrets and the assault cannon turrets do not require any uranium to build. Going with the hydrogen thrusters instead of the ion thrusters, you don't need to get any of that space-based platinum. This also let me go ahead and configure this in a way that this thing can actually lift off from the planetary surface. Because you see there are a total of 12 of these downwards thrusters. It's kind of it for the top. As you can see, I went ahead and took the nonsense that was happening over here and made it even more nonsense by fitting some thrusters in. There are the grand total of 6 forward-facing thrusters. There's another 6 upwards-facing thrusters, 2 here and then around each side of this turret. For the bottom, you can see that I've got 4 in the center and then 4 on each side. For the rear, I decided to do 1 big thruster and flank it with 2 smaller thrusters. And then finally, on the ends, I went ahead and I slapped some more another 6 thrusters on this. All in all, that means that I have 6 thrusters for down, left, right, and back, 12 for up, and then 2 small and a large for forwards. Overall, this means that you should be able to lift off from like Earth-like with somewhere around 1.2 million kilograms of weight. And then it also does mean that it has more upwards thrust than forwards thrust, because you would come in somewhere around 900 to a million kilograms of weight that you could lift off if you were to just tilt back on your butt. Now, with this, you can see I went ahead and I put a lot of stuff kind of in these wings. So I have a H2O2 generator set, so it's connecting to the thruster in the kind of the middle of these 3 sets. And then it has these side ports on each side, which are then connecting to these hydrogen tanks. So that's basically everything is getting connected from there, pipes down, and then condenses to one spot right here. And then from here I have a conveyor corner that is then going up. With that conveyor corner there, then I also went ahead and was able to fit in another 4 downwards thrusters. And this is basically the beginnings of the conveyor piping. I also started by going ahead and putting my connector kind of in the middle, but you'll see later that I changed that around. Coming up here, right below this conveyor is going to be that hydrogen thruster. And then right below this one is going to be that conveyor corner. So that conveyor corner is coming up, and then I have 4 T's, and then I have the 2 conveyor junctions at each end. The reason I did it this way is so that way I could simplify my conveyance. This is making sure that everything is connected along this whole side, and then it's coming out the sides, and it's going to be maintaining air tightness in here. Beyond that, there are 2 thrusters on the other sides of these conveyors, again using these conveyors for air tightness reasons. Right here is going to be another, I think that's the thruster? Nope, that is the assault cannon turret. So I've got the assault cannon turret right here. Actually, there's the conveyor or the cargo container, and then the assault cannon turret. So if you wanted something other than the conveyor junction, you could. On each side of this, then, going up, there is a hydrogen thruster, and then going back, there's a hydrogen thruster. This is another hydrogen thruster, and then there is the one central cargo container that I put here. Going up from that is then going to be another, or that central assault cannon turret. Then, of course, down here we've got the 2 more downwards facing thrusters, and then this is connecting on the side to then go over 1 more for the other upwards thruster that's going on right there. I missed it here, but I got it in one of the later ones. There's also going to be another conveyor right here that is then going and connecting to the cargo container for the turret. Alright, so next up is going ahead and getting everything back there connected and getting some batteries on this thing. You can see at this point I ended up swapping around where I had my connector placed. I put it on the back instead of the front, and then moved the door to the front of this, where you come in the door and then immediately go up the stairs. Next up, since we're going up the stairs, I decided that one of the things that it's nice to have in an airlock is a cargo container, so I brought that down by 1 and put one of my vent fans there. Continuing on from here, I went ahead and I added some more H2O2 generators. So basically right on the back side of this is going to be that big thruster, and then here is where I had those conveyors for the smaller thrusters. So that is all connected up. Start adding some more hydrogen tanks, move along here, get more of those connections in. On this side there is another H2O2 generator that then pulled on over, and then I've got a corner and a corner connecting to these conveyors. Was able to go ahead and slap a few batteries in, but at this point most everything is conveyored up. You can see I ended up missing a conveyor over there that I corrected later, and then as mentioned, I had to go 2 forward to then connect those, but otherwise everything is all connected. Moving on to the next version. Here you can see I went ahead and I fixed those other conveyors internally. Everything is now fully connected. And then we can come in here and you can see that I started. We now have a full airlock. We can come out on either side. I put in my gyros. This area is all more or less the same. I added another cargo container over here as well as a refill station. Gravity, projector. This is where I decided to stick the helm And I've got some space up here that I wasn't sure what to do. I went ahead and stuck my remote control, AI blocks, and some event controls up here. And then over on this side, more or less the same, but this side I went ahead and I stuck in that oxygen tank as well as a survival kit. And then over here you can see there's another cargo terminal, which I think was originally facing this way, but yeah, I probably should turn that. Oh well. Then we get to the final version. So with that one, everything has been all connected. Technically the ship is flyable in that state, but now we need to go ahead and decorate the interior, put some greebling on, paint the ship, of course. One of the things I do want to point out here is that down here I did cover the bottom of this with armor panels. Do be aware that these are just armor panels. So, you definitely do not want to be exposing the belly of your ship to incoming fire because there's not a whole lot there. There's also no turrets down here, aside from whether or not these gatling turrets could possibly shoot something. You definitely want to basically point the top back of your ship, kind of top front. Basically, you want the opposing ship to be somewhere in this general area. Let's see here. Outside, aside from, of course, the colors are basically the same. I might be able to swap that out. There. That looks a little better. And of course, it's mirrored on both sides. Alright, and then we can come on in here and do kind of more of the full tour. So I went ahead and I put some landing gear on the sides, just little magnetic plates, as well as one on the nose. I figured that the nose one is going to be more likely for grabbing, unknown signals or any captured ships, anything like that. Whereas these ones are more just to make sure that if you land, you're not landing directly on your thrusters. One of the things that I will note is that I have half armor blocks here, and then, the door. I have actually landed this on a planet to test. You do actually need to crouch to get out from underneath, but I think that that's an okay alternative to trying to put the door back here and then having a whole lot of nonsense going on up here as you try and figure out how to actually access any of that area. Coming on in, we can now turn our light off. It is fully interior lit. Come on up here. This air vent is set for depressurize. We have a light in here and a cargo terminal. Turn off build info, conveyor visibility. We've got some batteries directly up here. I might have gone a little overboard with the batteries because there's a total of 8 on this ship, which means that your batteries are probably going to last a lot longer than your hydrogen is. Then we can go ahead and let's come through this door first. And this is basically a little living area. With a small little ship like this, I kind of figured this would be a one-person ship, but he might have, or she might have some guests on board. So we have these lovely little couches where we can watch the TV. Again, cargo terminal and refill station here. Over here, we have our bathroom and shower, all behind a door. If you are playing on an online server and you want to save some PCU, remove this door, and maybe also remove these text panels. Then We've got a pair of couches over here where you can just kind of sit and chat. And then we come on in here to the bedroom. I decided to go ahead and do armory, locker, and then a full simple bed rather than one of the other DLC beds, just because, you know, gotta have a little bit of luxury. And this definitely does look like the most luxurious bed. Alright, then, let's skip up there for the moment. We have this little corridor here, and this area is, again, that electronics area. I went ahead, you can see the remote control now, as well as AI blocks and the 2 event controllers. And then over here you can see that I went ahead and I was able to fit another 8 hydrogen tanks. Is this the best spot for hydrogen? No, but it got me up, I think, to a total of 16 hydrogen tanks on this ship. Maybe more, I'll need to double check, but just more hydrogen is generally better, but I did still want this area to be accessible. One thing that I was considering doing was going ahead and putting in the keen airlocks, which would be the putting something like this in, which for some reason this blocks all air pass, or it's fully airtight, so I could have gone ahead and put this in, and then even if you lost the front of your ship, you know, you'd still be airtight for the rest. But by doing that, that would also mean that you would not have airtightness in here. So you'd be walking from oh god, I need my helmet. Thought about it, decided not to. It's definitely something to consider, or you can go ahead and swap one of these conveyors out for another air vent if you want this to be pressurized, and change these into doors. All options to consider if, you know, you're worried about losing the front of your ship. Coming on over here, I decided to go ahead and make this kind of like the kitchen and dining room. Again, not anything big, but I figured that if you're going to entertain any guests, it's probably going to be no more than, you know, 2 or 3 guests total. So we've got a full kitchen on over here with a bar, bar top seating. Then back here we have our cabinetry and our freezer and fridge, as well as full kitchen. Then coming on over here, this is now annoying me, so let's go ahead, turn off this. And then I was using plastic over here, so let's go find that. There we go. Alright, now you can see the terminal. So there are going to be a grand total of 3 cargo terminals. These are more for your storing of goods or whatever you need while you're flying, like say maybe more ice, while the other ones are all just more designated ammo containers. But everything is conveyored up, so, you know, if you don't need that much ammo, you can certainly go ahead and carry other stuff as well. Finally, we come on up here. You can see there's 2 gyros, the projector, the gravity generator, and of course, I just had to use this control seat. Your forward view is absolutely worthless. There's also only the single camera that is there to help you in docking, so that's not going to be particularly helpful for you. And of course you can see on the back I went ahead and stuck the antenna on. So yeah, let me go ahead and load this up in my demonstration system. and then we will see what all this can do. Alrighty, so here we are on the Earth-like planet over a fairly nice spot. I would happily go ahead and start a game here. So let's go ahead and take this through its paces. So since it is hovering here, obviously it has enough thrust to carry it without any what's it called? Any issues. Words, eventually I'll find them. So naturally the first thing that I want to do is demonstrate landing this thing. So you could, of course, if you're landing on a connector, look down. This is directly in front of your connector, so you can lock and unlock. But if I just keep on creeping down, there we go. Alright, this is as flat as we can go. And let me just come on over here and find all of my thrusters. There we go. So thrusters off. So we have landed on a planet for whatever reason. Now we can go ahead and walk on out. Do note I do have an event controller set up so that way if either of these two doors are open, that one is turned off, and then reversed if I open this one, both of these are turned off. Alright, so we step out, and now that we are on this, you can see we can't really get out unless we crouch. But as long as we are crouched, we can get out from underneath the ship without too much issue. Is it perfect? No. One thing that I would change about this ship if I, could figure out a way to do it and still make it look how I wanted it to, but overall it was a sacrifice I was willing to make. So that is it for, the landing part. Now let's go ahead and take a look. Do note you do need to hop just a smidge to get in sometimes. Alright. So, we are in here. Let's go ahead and turn my thrusters back on. Unlock my landing gear. And you can see that without any cargo, we are 625,000 kilograms, which is, we basically have a 2-to-1 thrust ratio there. I have gone ahead and set up the bars. You can see over here we've got cycle what the weapons are targeting, whether that's weapons or power, thrust, whatever. 2 is target neutrals on and off. I just tied all of that in with this one thing. 3 is for the AI defense block. There's the AI defense and AI offense, but it's kind of your choice on which one you'd want to use. 5 is going to be your reverse thrust. So if I were to come over here, you can see my forward thrusters. If I hit that, now I've got cruise control on. 6 is unlock the landing gear. You can see there. 7 is setting auto lock on and off. 8 is, of course, that camera I showed you, and then 9 is going to be the connector. Let's unlock this. Pop on over here. We've got the projector on. Of course, 9 is going to be all your thrusters off and on. So let's go ahead and turn those back on. 6 is all of your H2O2 generators. And then I have 1 through 4 being basically your liftoff from planet thrusters. So 3 is going to be setting the overrides on your upwards thrust to 0. 4 is going to be setting it to 100. and then 1 and 2 is increase, decrease. So let's go ahead and lift off and take this baby to space. And now we are going to mess with the thrust overrides. There we go. And then it's just fiddling with thruster overrides until you get into orbit. While we watch this thing ascend, let's go ahead and take a look inside for some of those things. So when I come in here, I have my batteries, which you can see that I have 8 batteries on this ship. Probably overkill for what it's used for, but you know, it means that you don't need to worry about recharging that often. Hydrogen tanks. There are a total of 20 on this ship. So even though there's no large hydrogen tanks, 20 small ones is still going to go ahead and give you, you know, you can see on the screen here, 20 megaliters. Is that megaliters? Yeah, yeah, the ml of storage, which is going to be plenty for most operations. Other than that, let's see here. Of course, have all of our turrets, cargo, um, lighting. I've already fiddled with all of that, though I did go ahead and name where all the lighting is. H2O2 generators. There are a total of 12 of them. So if you do need to refill this, as long as you can get ice into the machine, then you will be able to go ahead and refill without too much issue. Still going up, don't really care. We only have the one oxygen tank, and of course the survival kit, which means that worst case scenario, we could always go ahead and run away and rebuild. I think that's all that's relevant here. There is no assembler, there's no refinery. This is designed to basically to be a defensive ship, and it's supposed to go ahead and fight things. It is not supposed to, you know, be your home away from home or your base or anything like that. It's just supposed to go out and make sure that you know, with 3 assault cannons and 2 gatling turrets that all can go ahead and focus on anything basically in this whole arc here. You know, if any SPRT drones come up or smaller ships, this thing can handle that. What it cannot do is go ahead and handle larger opponents. You do not want to take this out against Factorum. You do not want to take this out as, you know, um, hunting down some of the larger enemy SPRT ships. So there are a few that I've seen that are doing things like rocking a railgun and 2 artillery turrets. If this goes up against them, well, I hope you had insurance, because this thing's probably not going to survive. Um, but for an early game planet capable, you don't need anything from space ship. This has everything that you might need. Alright, so you can see we have, you know, gotten all the way up to basically 0.3 gravity and only used 5% of our hydrogen with these thruster overrides. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to pop on around somewhere and see if I can find an engagement for us. So I will be right back when I find basically anything. Alrighty. So, did a little bit of wandering. Uh, there is a crazed miner sitting over there somewhere. And then I found this SPRT pirate beacon. Um, because this is the only ship that I have in the demonstration world, and it is not particularly strong. You can look in here and see that it is sitting on 7617 PCU. Though that is with the projector on. If I turn it off, 6631. So overall, I don't have a lot of PCU in this world, which means that also the AI is not throwing out a ton of challenges. So we've got a pirate signal drone and then the SPRT pirate beacon. I'm going to just wander on over to that pirate beacon and see what it's like. And then we will... well, there's a gatling turret on it. So, might as well see what the Condor can do against something that, I have certainly had annoy me. Ooh, a perimeter drone. What happened? Oh, shot the decoys and blew off a nice big chunk. Okay. Alright, swap on over to thrust because that thing annoyed me. And there we go. Alrighty, so the perimeter drone was dealt with, and the decoys definitely did their job. Because, we took some damage, but it looks like we lost one decoy. And, nope, didn't quite breach. And, of course, if I zoom on in, it looks like there is just the one gatling gun on this thing, which should be trivial for a ship like this to take out because you can just... Oh, there's a... So, and the type of encounter that you would face in the early game. Another pirate signal beacon? Anyways, we managed to go ahead, take it out. Pirate beacon, broadcasting position, no way. And we could very easily go ahead and salvage this now, or just make it go away. Blast to pieces, whatever it is that you would want to do. Yeah. Let's see, should I go ahead and see what happens if we take this against the Factorum? Sure. I'll be right back. Just show you how badly that goes. Alright, here we are, 10k away from the Factorum Logistics Facility. This is going to go ahead and We can see there's a ship there, kind of like a turret there. Should also be another ship or two. Oh yeah, right up there. So yeah. Oh, wrong button. So this is not what you should do with this ship. But you know what? We'll do it anyways because it's funny. So we can go ahead and burn on in. And now we can see a little bit, basically right here. Another SPRT beacon. And again, so we're gonna go see if we can handle, I think that's a barrage. Alrighty. High profile escort. Yeah, so this is definitely not what you have. Oh boy! Let's try doing this. Ow. Woo! Woo! That was a little closer than I thought. We are now exposed to the atmosphere, and they are shooting our bottom, which is, of course, the last thing that we want them to do. Looks like we were able to take out some of the turrets. Hey, that's cool. So we were actually able to take out, yeah, that's a barrage. Whoa! One of the barrages at the logistics facility. There is another barrage and an assault support drone. See what we can do about that one. The assault support drone seems to be handled. We have lost our main thruster. Well, so much for that side thrust. We didn't need it anyways, right? We also have no forward thrust now. Well, that's fun. don't know what that was, but I think it's over now. Ah, the high-profile escort. And what does this thing have? Oh, there's another high-profile escort over there too? Oh, a railgun! Oh boy, such fun. Ow. A railgun, and I'm not sure if that's an assault turret or an artillery turret, but yeah. Anyways, so definitely don't take the Condor out against Factorum. You'll have a bad day. But for most early game defense stuff that you would run into, it's a perfectly serviceable ship. Also, if you were... Did that just try and shoot me with a railgun? Rude. Anyways, if you were to go ahead and try to take on the Factorum with this sort of ship, you probably could if you were to go ahead and turn it into basically a large grid drone. I have not done a whole lot of playing on... Where did that come from? Oh, that one! Yeah, definitely don't take it against two high-profile escorts and their railguns. Anyways, if you watched all the way to the end of this nonsense, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.